Awesome.
Boom.
Welcome to NoFo. You know what, guys? It's funny because I can actually see how many people watched that just now, and one person has popped up, so I don't know who the person is. All that new marketing and advertising, only one person is technically currently. Maybe we'll play it again a little bit later. Anyway,
how's that yield return for you?
Welcome. Hi, Reese. Welcome for the evening. How are we all doing tonight, guys?
Yeah, good, mate. You?
Yeah, not too bad. Enjoying the Friday feeling? No?
Yes. Yeah, it's a bit weird. Still a bit worky from home every other day, so it's. I was in the office today, but I don't know. It's just almost the weekends are nice, but because you're kind of working from home and then in the office and then working, it's like you've not got that build-up feeling. You know, when you're in Monday and you think, oh shit, it's Monday. Then you get to Wednesday and you think, oh, I've broken the back on that one. And then Thursday, Friday, you're like a little kid in a playground with a bag of sweets, and but now you're kind of like, oh, yeah. The only difference is I haven't got to work.
Yeah, it's a busman's holiday, isn't it? You know, sort of you sit on your laptop all day, doing virtual meetings, and earphones in, and lo and behold, you go away, have your dinner, and come back and do it again.
Exactly that. Get the riffs out, have a little fiddle through for some gear, and jump on another meeting. Take a working lunch on Call of Duty.
Yes.
Hashtag it's a hard life.
Hi
everyone that's joining us in the chat. James, hiya, Rage. Lee, Roy. Roy's new. I don't think we've seen Roy before.
So Roy, I used to go to school with Roy, secondary school. So he's one of the guys who there's, as I've matured into adulthood, I have 3 nights a week on my PlayStation 4. Right, as I've entered adulthood, there's no maturity behind it. So essentially, I do Sunday, Tuesday, Thursdays on the PlayStation, and he's a very good friend of mine from secondary school. And here's him and a friend of mine in Sweden. And just the 3 of us still hook up and basically get schooled by kids on Call of Duty Warzone, because that's how it is now, because the old arthritis doesn't make my fingers work. I can't handle a sensitivity level 10 like these kids can. So he's a pal, a good friend of mine.
But you're talking of adulthood. I actually got a message this week on my Instagram telling me to grow up. So clearly we've made it celebrities at that point. I've got trolls.
Wonderful. There you go, mate. That's it. You're famous.
I know.
I had the gauntlet thrown down at me about God, I hope it doesn't come back in any way. So my brother's ex, her mum and dad live out in America. And they used to live in Devon or something like that. I think they travelled out to America, lived out there a number of years. My brother went out there and stayed for a year out there and all this sort of stuff. But they are massive Trump supporters, as in proper hardcore, make America great again. And apparently someone slipped that it might be quite easy to wind them up. And I literally almost got to the point of, when you take pride in the fact that someone of a certain age has called you all the names under the sun. It's like, yep, I've achieved that one. And then my mum, whose chat it was on Facebook, in the end had to delete the thread because it was just like dunk, 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 dunk. And I'm texting my niece, who's that's her nan, and I'm texting my niece saying, I'm really winding your nan up in America. I said, she's so easy to wind up. I said, so just one final thing before we go. Now he's gone. Are we going to make America great again? Fucking
Politics, mate. Politics. It is the worst thing to get involved in and talk about.
It is, mate. Yeah, that and religion.
Yes,
it's quite explosive. There's a little there into what we're talking about tonight. So we're obviously talking pyro, mortars, and tag rounds. So I've actually brought a few to talk about along. I'm not going to set anything off because my wife would kill me. So
I was going to bring the mortar, but I wasn't sure about putting a mortar.
No, I don't think.
Here. I think that would get frowned upon.
Yeah, for people that didn't watch episode 4, we got kicked off about halfway through when Mike started fiddling with his gun.
And that's not a euphemism.
What I was going to do is I bought this piece of scaffolding along to show you. It just so happens it's OD green.
I was going to start off with something really different, pyro-wise. I don't know if you guys have seen it before, but it's the Stroboscope 90 sec. Now, based on what I've just told you in terms of the name, these are obviously not from the UK. I think they're actually Polish.
That'll leave a crater then.
They're actually a 90-second strobe pyro. So what you do is you set it on the ground, light the fuse, and then you get 90 seconds of flashing light, which is absolutely a killer for night vision. It turns out.
I can test if see if my epilepsy tablets work. If you pop it.
Well, yeah. I tested one of these in my back garden, thinking, 90 seconds doesn't sound that long. I lit it, took a few steps back. It was lighting up my house. It was lighting up my neighbour's back of the house. It's amazing how long 90 seconds is when you just want to cringe. And you've got this bright, like portable sun in your garden.
Yeah.
But these were only about I think I said about £3 each. And I've had these used fairly effectively against me, which is why I bought some. Because when you're on stag duty or whatever like that, I think it was actually APOC. We're in the stockade. And somebody just let one of these off in sort of the tree line. You could not see anything for a little while. It completely kills your night vision.
So no surprises. Lee Goldsmith is piping up in the comments at the moment, and Lee, aka Hightower, he is notorious for running with things like that. And it was probably him at the last few MilSims, and he actually brought one bit of pyro, some Polish piece, and it was like that, and he put it on the floor and set it off at the end of the night, and honestly it lit the sky so much so that the farm owner come up the next morning saying you illuminated the entire area, and this thing burnt so bright it burnt actually into the ground. So when we went back to it, it had literally recessed into the ground. So so Lee's saying that he loves that type of pyro. My god, that man has some
the thing is though, the difference with Lee is he can drop something like that on the floor and light doesn't travel that far, does it, up to where he is?
No, exactly. It's so bloody
tall. So he just looks down. It's like, what's this little thing, this little firefly on the deck? It's because he's up here. No difference. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I would absolutely clarify that you've got to check with your site owners that you're allowed to use certain pyro. Don't just rock up and just be like, yeah, that's fine and stuff. I mean, I've had rockets fired at me, basically just fireworks. So always check, because there's probably some safety briefing or insurance policy, or just don't be a dick with fireworks, because that's basically what they are.
Just chuck it on the deck and go, fuck yeah.
I've got a few others. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to talk about specifically. I've got some other props.
So I pop some slides over about tags. So that I'm happy to crack on or wait my turn to go through tags if you want.
Well, if we keep going with the pyro for the moment, because I'm going to have to just get the slides up, because I might have got those still on the hard drive.
Fair enough, mate. No problem.
I'll let you guys talk about something while I find them.
Fine. So Paul, obviously you use a mortar.
Yep. Actually,
how have you found that?
It's the one that I purchased off of you.
That was.
Yeah, it was. And you know what? I was. It is great fun to use. It really is. So range-wise, I've not really calculated the range, so it chucks a fair distance. So you can go from, Bartertown at APOC and fire quite comfortably into Punisher Pit, which is a fair old whack, really. If you want to just sort of wake a couple of guys up in the night just to be a general pain in the arse, depending on what what the scenario is regards to attacking fobs and all that sort of stuff. But it is a good crack, and there's something about, I don't know, it's like, someone gives you a riff, even if it's like a little BB handgun or whatever, and you're transported back to being, like a bit of a kid, and this is great, I'm running around like Rambo. And then someone says, I've got something there, look, try this one. It's a mortar. And you're like, whoa, here we go. And then you use it, and it's quite terrifying, really. That split second when you crack the fuse on one of those rounds, you haven't got much time between that going, and you need to get that in a pipe that it's not much bigger than the bloody. And the next thing you know, that's it. And I think the first time I used it, I did it, but I was just literally right next to it and fired it off. Didn't have my mouth open, didn't cover the ear, and done myself in like an absolute kipper, but walked away with a smile from ear to ear on it. But it is, I mean,
how accurate?
I think it all just depends, really. It depends on the angle that you're firing. Obviously, you know, we don't fire them like RPGs, although I've seen it done a couple of times. And I know Lance will be watching, so I've got to put that one in there. Don't do that, kids. It's just not fun. Well, it is, but it's dangerous. It's fun, but anyway. Yeah, so we're not advocates of that at all. You know, you follow the angle set by the site that you're playing on. But you know, if you're firing it up high to, you know, go over a shorter distance, then the wind, you know, will take you know, a bit of an impact on the accuracy. I guess my biggest thing about any pyro, and this is probably one of those questions that, you know, the viewers might want to chip in on. Sometimes it's bad enough with people taking their hits when you're firing at them with a gun. BBs, naturally, not bullets. Facebook police or YouTube police or whoever it might be. But I think really more so, you know, it's easier for people to wangle their way out of taking a hit from a Mark V or a mortar, you know. So I didn't land nowhere near me, you know, and there's not really many people usually there to police it, because you're in a scenario where you're on a MilSim or whatever. You know, I can't say as I've really ever fired one. And I've known on a couple of occasions it's landed in areas where there've been people, but they've kind of just, no, you know, that's over 5 meters away or whatever, I'm all right. So there is that feeling of, you know, I'm chucking £6 a time down a tube, but then there's that other little bit of me that says that was really good fun for £6. So I'm not sure. I think, as I say, I think they're great. I think they've got a place. If I look at pyro that I use probably more so than anything, would be smokes, purely because, as I say, you know, you can chuck Mark Vs, you can chuck pea grenades, you can chuck all sorts, and I think, you know, there's just not always that level of honesty, I suppose, which unfortunately, yeah, I think you're right. You know, sometimes you've had them chucked in a hut, you know, and people are like, no, it didn't get me. I'm, you know, up a ladder or whatever, and you think, actually, if that was like a grenade and I threw that in that wooden hut, mate, there wouldn't be much left of the hut. So you know, but yeah, but you know, it is great fun. But do I regret getting it? Absolutely not. You know, I think if you're in the woods, and you've got people passing by in front of you, and you hear this like thud of a mortar, it naturally gets people to get their heads down and all this. But yeah, it is a good crack. I've not tried the smokes or anything like that. I've heard they're pretty pants. The smokes for the paramortar. So all I use is the sort of the double bang, which is the one to project it, and then the second bang delayed after so many seconds when it hits the deck. But I mean, you'd have used it, Mike. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah. Oh, Mike F or Mike M?
Or either or. You've both used one.
I've got one of the mortar rounds. If you want to talk about how they actually work, because obviously there will be some people that they've never seen these before. So
essentially, you got the striker on the or the touch plate on the top. Give them a twist, and funnily enough, they look. Give them a twist. It's your Friday weakness. The missus are super glued them because you don't want you to blow your room up. Oh, has he gone? No, has he blown himself up?
Yeah.
There we go.
Right, so they do look like a little bit like a licorice stick once you take the top off. Obviously that's the light paper underneath, but you literally like a gnat's whisper of that strike pad touching that wick, and that thing goes. There's no, there's a fag paper in it sometimes, and it will still go off. And then you just put it in with that light stick facing down, and then off it jolly well goes. If you put it in with the stick facing up, it's going to be fun for all the family, because that will make a horrific sound because it will blow back down into the bottom of the mortar. But as I say, I've never used the smokes. I've never seen the smokes used either. So I don't know whether they're going to be like a, one of the EGs with regards to coverage. But if you want to just keep some people awake or throw a few into the Alamo at Longmoor or, but as I say, I think you've probably had the same frustrations, Mike M, with your tag rounds. When you're pummeling tags down and that they're hitting people and they're kind of like, no, not me. I've seen you do it a couple of. I think one of the MilSims we was at, where you had the on the stockade, you've got the bit that goes up and over the front, whatever they call it, the entrance way, I suppose it is. And you was chucking more tag rounds into there, and we knew that they were hitting, but it was like,
and that was that. And that. It's just the old honesty, isn't it? Honesty, integrity, isn't it? And I remember that event very well. That I was firing tag round after tag round into certain parts of the stockade, and like you say, there was a landing in the tower and detonating. Yet there was an individual up there, not Mike Fraser, with an LMG. That's why I'm saying not Mike Fraser. With an LMG that was, he got fucking wiped out. Simple as that. Yet, never called a hit, and one of our team went out on a recce the next morning, and lo and behold, there was about 4 or 5 detonated tags up there, and we even approached said individual to say, look, have a word, mate, so
quid's worth of tags up here.
Mortars and tags are a load of fun, but you still got the people element in it, and I think Harry Badger's popped something in there that obviously it's difficult to police, especially at MilSims when it's self-policing to a degree, isn't it? And I think obviously from that respect, there needs to be some sort of rules of engagement established. They're saying here that if a mortar lands on a building in this instance, everyone's killed in action. So I think it's just about that, isn't it? I think how do site organisers define the rules of engagement for mortars, tags, you name it. I think Range popped something in there saying mortars have a 5 metre rule, etc. So it's very much down to it needs to be articulated. But it's frustrating, isn't it?
I think the only thing really you can do is let your integrity as a player define you.
Absolutely.
If everyone else doesn't take it, as long as I can walk off the field at the end of the day saying, one landed at my feet and I sat my ass down, and played dead. You're always gonna, there's always arseholes in the world, isn't there, or people that just want to bend it. But if we do what's right, then we're being ambassadors for the sport, and they'll be the ones that end up just getting sacked off because enough people will complain about it, and that's it. Then you find that quite a few of these MilSims, I know the APOC ones, it's not every Tom, Dick, and Harry that can jump on that. It's historically has been you go there a few times or whatever, you get known, or you're recommended by somebody to go along. And then John used to kind of invite you into the fold a little bit. So, or it'd be Smithy or Lance or whoever it may be, so, no one wants that bad press. Longmoor, I've seen a couple of occasions. We went with, there's so many Mikes in my life. Who's the other guy, Mike, with a tag launcher, works at like Go Outdoors or something like that?
Guy with a tag launcher works outdoors.
No, Go Outdoors or whatever it is. The what's it?
Oh Christ, Mike! What's his bloody? So I know exactly who you mean. He works in a camping shop, doesn't he?
Yep. That'll
Mike.
come to you about 2 a.m.
I know the guy. I know the guy we're talking about. Absolutely.
Yeah. So he dropped a round straight in the middle of about 9 Blue Force players at Longmoor. And credit to them, every single one of them sat down, and then he went over him. I think he might have medicked one of them in and then killed him again just for a laugh. Not with a tag round, he just medicked him back and then, done his usual Rust 4 execution as we do. But I think they we have big boys toys that we play with. And this just brings a different level of big boys toy into it, which makes it fun, and gives you a different angle in how you play. Would I want to run around with that 38mm Pyro mortar on my back? not for a long time.
Actually, that was something I was going to discuss tonight. I noticed with some of the branding that's gone out on Instagram and Facebook this week, there's weird, well, not weird, but there's interesting differences between the way you have yours and the way I have mine. So yours is obviously the proper sort of hinged base, and I think you've got a sling on yours. Is that right?
Only I think Mike added that himself. I think it's a Viper sling or something like that, buddy, isn't it?
Yeah, when I bought the mortar from was it TLSFX, say that with a lisp. It come with like a bit of a grotty sling, to be fair. So I just wanted to have a look at it was, and yeah, I thought I'd just have one. Just got a little cheap OD Viper one, which just meant you could carry it around a bit easier.
Yep.
All I was going to say is I've actually fitted on mine. It's like a bicycle carry handle. So it's like a little Velcro thing. I think it's like £5 off of eBay. One of these sort of like little weird and wonderful gadgets. But that means you can carry it. It's got like a little proper carry handle right at the base of it. So if anyone's got one, I highly recommend having a look at that as a potential option if you're interested.
Yeah, I mean, what we found
make carrying around a lot easier.
What we found with ours and the best use that we got out of it, and I think I've used it twice, both at Longmoor. The first MilSim, we went with Sam Jarrett, Steve, Den, and Sean. And say we were on Rust 4. We had our own little team. The mortar stayed in our house. And then Zero would phone in and go, right, I want you to go and put 4 rounds on the Alamo or whatever. And then you kind of went out around the back of the houses, over the railway track, right round the back there into the woods and cut out just a little bit. And then just stuck 4 rounds in, or go to the main fob when you, I think the first time we stayed, you was actually in the main base that you drive past as you come in.
Yeah.
Whereas the last one that we were on, I think you stayed in the SF training facility or whatever is the SF base. So we went and put a couple of rounds on that just to get the QRF to come flow, sort of speeding out. Nothing else. We just run away after, but it was just like, just go and stick a couple in, just keep it alive. And it works for that. But I wouldn't want to go, right, I'm going out on a patrol somewhere and, do this. And I've got my gun, I've got my rucksack, I've got my gear on, and then I've got a mortar stung off my
See,
back.
that's what we do. So we normally have, we usually have like in our patrol, there might be probably about 10 of us, maybe, and there'll probably be 2 mortars in the team with that. So yeah, we generally tend to carry them when we're out.
I think the guy's Jim. I want to say Jim, one of the Legion guys. Probably not Jim at all. He looks like a Jim anyway.
Might be a Mike. Who knows?
It's it's one of the organisers, isn't it? Yeah, it's Jim.
Yeah, I think older guy, but he's often the Zero for Op 4. And then all he would say, so the first time we did it, I think we stored the mortar up in the loft. This is giving a clue away to someone that plays on Blue. Just as well I bought a load of multicam. I've got to come and join you next time. But we stored the thing up in the loft. And then he went, right, take your mortar. Have you got any rounds? How many have you got? Yep, we've got so many rounds. Right, so when you run out, come and see us because we've got some as well. We don't want you to just burn through all yours. But he said, just stick your rounds in a bag, take your mortar, and he showed us the map and he went, just go and stash it there. He said, and then just walk away and leave it. He said, and sometime later on, he said it might be 11 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever, when people are getting a little bit tired in the Alamo, the head starts going, you've been standing there for 3 hours. He said, then I'll just give you a shout to go and put 2 or 3 rounds in to liven them up a bit. And that was it. He kind of left it.
It's quite possible that the video on Facebook of us firing from the SF base out that I posted up earlier in the week, it's quite possible we were firing at you.
Yeah,
so,
probably.
Yeah.
I had a bit more body mass back then, so the chances are you would have hit me.
Oh, don't be mean. I'll just jump into the comments. There's obviously been loads being said. So Rage talking back the stroboscope said that looks like a firework from Lidl. Yeah, granted. Pretty much is. Bloody blah. Mike knows horror history. Mike 9volt. Just out of interest, when did you last order strobes? As I've noticed, they could be hard to get hold of now. Yeah, I think Amazon might have had a bit of a crackdown on these. Because I did look just before the episode tonight. This was probably about 6 months ago. I ordered these ones. So yeah, mortars have a 5 meter rule. I've seen them with 10 sometimes. What about you guys?
Varies, but yeah, mine normally I've seen sort of like 5 meter rule.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think most
Same.
people just they stick with the standard pyro bang rule because it's what's ingrained in people. So otherwise, I think when I've been to Longmoor, if they'd have gone, if you throw a Mark 5, it's 5 meters. If you hit them with a mortar, it's 10. I think that might lead to confusion. I agree totally with what Rage is saying. If you think about it, if you're dropping a rocket on someone, it's going to have a bit more of a blast distance than one of the Mark 5s. But yeah, so they're a good crack. Just quickly on fireworks, you talk about chucking things up your garden. We had a guy at work, it's going back a couple of years now, who he kind of gets fireworks on a pallet, sort of a bit like that. Various times throughout the year, everyone knows that one person. I've got a pallet of these. If you want some,
Dangerous Dave or something like that.
Do your good deal. To the point that we had to tell him to stop bringing them into the site in his car. If he wanted to do it, he had to meet people outside. And he said, I've got these fireworks. And I said, that's no worries. I'll do a display up the garden, get all the family round. It'd be brilliant. He said, I've got these rockets, and they were like, I don't know, 4 foot long or whatever, these rockets. A box of various things. And then he had this one firework called Emma's Rainbow. He said, it's beautiful. It's like the one that you finished the night with. I went, yeah, no worries. We'll have some of that. So as it was, I was setting fireworks off, and one of these rockets went up in the air, exploded. Then the stick come down from such a height, and it went straight through my daughter's Little Tykes playhouse roof. put a hole through that. And then my garden's like, I don't know, it's only about 18 foot wide or something like that, and we've got 7-foot fences either side. So I've grabbed the plastics box that we use for recycling, filled it with sand, put this fucking firework in it, and I've lit it, thinking, well, I didn't know what I thought really, because in my head I thought it's going to be colours of the rainbow. I didn't think it would make the shape of a rainbow. Lit this thing, and it's almost blown the tops of my fence off because it goes out like that, sideways, and created this beautiful rainbow effect of the firework in the sky. But you get your normal shiplap fencing, and you have that bit of wood nailed in across the top. One side of it had been totally splintered off. So I destroyed a Little Tykes Wendy house and blew the top of my fence off, all with a firework out the back of some bloke's Merc.
Quick ones, Mike. Do you need to ask your missus to get that open for you? Yeah, I've worked out what it is. FBS, who I think have taken over from TSLFX, possibly. These are clearly very well glued down. I've not had it that tight before. Don't make a joke out of that. But yeah, so that's why.
Well, let's just jump in on that. So EG, yeah, but whereabouts the TLFX? Where are they produced? What's their country of origin?
Not sure.
So they're UK based, mate.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they are. They do a lot. They supply a lot of the companies up and down the UK. So if you go onto fire support, for instance, and you look for the thermobaric sort of charges and that, it's all produced by TLFSX. If I can pronounce that.
Yeah,
right. But yeah, so they're UK based. I mean, that's where I got the mortar from and all of the rounds. And like I say, they supply loads of other people as well. So yeah, UK based.
One thing I will say about that mortar, so the first one that we started off with, the guy Sean, he's one of those applies his hands to anything. He made his own one out of like a bit of scaffold pipe or something like that. And you talk about accuracy, that the proper TLSFX one, is 10 times more accurate than the homemade jobby. I think it was. It's a tighter bore on the paramotor compared to the scaffold one. So when you chuck these rounds in, they're coming out like that straight away as they come up the pipe. Whereas the paramotor, they're kind of a lot more snug, so they're coming out sort of flatter.
You do get a lot of burring and stuff in the scaffold pipe as well.
So that'll make it. But we have got, which I will stick on the Facebook page, on the old Wolf Recon YouTube channel. There is a video of that homemade one being fired. So I'll grab that afterwards and I'll stick that in the chat. And then next time, perhaps when we're out somewhere, when we're allowed out, I've got 5 rounds up in the loft. So whether we take it to Octo or
mine's DIY, we could actually do an accuracy test.
Yeah. Whether we can take them to Octo, whether they're going to be used at Octo or
We used them at the last one, so I presume that'll be fine. So
yeah, we'll get some footage and post that back up as well, just to sort of step back on this.
Cool. Right, Mike.
Yeah, so obviously highlighted in blue is what would have been a launcher, but obviously for obviously reasons we know why we're not allowed to advertise anything that resembles a gun on a live stream or a whip or a replica imitation firearm. So obviously I thought it prudent to obviously blot out what's there, to be fair. So look, I suppose I've got a couple of slides I just want to talk through, and the first one is just about my original setup. Now this was well, I mean, to be fair, there's actually an evolution of this. So before what you're seeing here, which is a CO2 setup, I had a green gas setup, which again is pretty much all of the same stuff, barring you're not using your CO2 bits, which is numbers 3, 4, and 5, and you was using green gas instead of. So, you know, I started off with a launcher. And obviously what you need is the launching shells, which is in number two up there. So you take your tag round and you put it into your launcher. You then obviously put your green gas into it. You then put it into your proper projectile launcher, and then you would fire it. So I bought a green gas one, a tag one, and it weren't great, to be fair. You know, the success rate and detonation rate was really, really poor. You know, I've done a lot of reading up on it, and they said, you know, that green gas is just not really good for these type of things, you know, and you need to go down the CO2 route. So fine. So, you know, as always with Airsoft, there's a great second-hand market. So, you know, goodbye to the pirate gun, goodbye to the green gas, you know, and that found a new owner elsewhere. So went for what you're seeing on the screen here. Now, the first thing, which is blatantly obvious, is there's a lot of fucking stuff just to shoot a tag round, isn't there? You know, number 6 is the thing that's going to go flying, but number 6 has got to be loaded into number 2. You know, you've got to take number 3 and put it in number 5. You know, you then need number 4 to sort of see how much, you know, CO2 you've got in number 5, and then you've got to take all of that and put it in number 1, your launcher. And then when you
just sorry to cut in, mate. How many times have you rehearsed that this morning?
Quite a few. You know, so that in itself, you know, for me was good reason why I moved that package along pretty quickly, you know, and that, you know, I take things generally a little bit to the extreme. So, you know, those number 2, those launching shells, the multi-R, basically, you know, you can click them to sort of, you know, do your trajectory, whether it's 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters, 40 meters, etc. And they're like 140 quid each. So you top them up straight away, whatever that is, 560 quid. You then take a fairly basic launcher, 50 quid. You then take your fill-in station, number 5, that's 70 quid. Your little valve there is, you know, 10 quid. Your CO2 carts are pennies. And then your tag rounds are, you know, 6 to 7 quid a round. So you take all of that out. It's just finicky. There's a lot of it. A lot of people will just run with one of the launching shells, the number 2s. Me being me, I bought 4 of them, and then, you know, went out to use them, and they work perfectly, you know, and they do, you know, and there is a, you know, so much range on them bloody things, but it was just too much. You know, you shoot one and then you're having to, you know, with the launching rounds, you then at the number 2 you have to then reset it. You then obviously then, you know, you need to sort of, you know, put your bloody thing back in, check the CO2, and it was just too much hassle. And I thought, you know what, in real world, you know, you're just going to get taken out by someone. And even in the BB world, you know, you shoot one off, and by the time you're reloading, you know, someone's, you know, firing a ton of BBs at you. So, you know, that is a way that you can use tag rounds. And for me personally, it felt like I was taking too much with me, and there was too many interdependencies, you know, to get it all to shoot number 6 out from the barrel. So, but, you know, ultimately, if you're going to get yourself a tag setup, you know, without going for 4 lots of your multi shells, you know, that is what you need, you know, to get yourself up and running. And it's quite a bit of stuff, you know, and you know, making no mistakes about it. It costs money, and there is once again, there's no cheap way of doing tag rounds. You know, they are expensive by the nature of what they are. So
there's bits to go wrong there, aren't there? When you look at it, it's like there's a lot of parts to the machine.
And I just found, like, you know, with the launching shells, every time you shoot one, you then have to sort of, you know, click the button in and reset it, and then once it's reset, you check the CO2. You know, you then have to put the thing back in. You then have to put it into your launcher, and you're like, Jesus Christ, it's like Inception. You know, sort of, you know, it's something within something within something within something else. And you know, in the nature of what we do in MilSims, you know, you've got to be pretty quick. You know, and if you're wanting to fire off a barrage, you know, and put people under sort of, you know, under stress from, you know, pummeling with mortars, then, you know, that setup there was not good for that type of thing.
Especially if you're trying to backtrack almost, if you're sort of, you know, advancing away from them.
And so it was just, you know, for me, it didn't work. You know, it wasn't quick. You know, and it wasn't, and it was just too much. You know, you're having to, again, you know, if you're setting down, you know, you've got to lay everything out. You've got to know where everything is, and you've got to have access to it. And that's just to fire one tag round. So for me, I started to do a little bit of research, just a little bit further, to say, you know, look, I really like tags. You know, I like the range. You know, you can get some considerable range from them, you know, when they're being shot at a 45-degree angle. But how do I start to simplify it? You know, and that for me is obviously where we moved on to tags. Tag Innovation's very own launcher. They do a couple of variations, but the one that really caught my eye was what's called the Tag ML36, which isn't quite on the screen. I'm sure will be coming up next.
Yeah.
That's the one. Brilliant. So, you know, the frustrating thing is it's a beautiful tag launcher. You know,
I can post these on Facebook potentially later.
Yeah, I mean, we've got.
We might lose our Facebook, but who knows if we get Zucked or not.
I suppose straight away, what have you got here? So you've got a launcher, a beautiful launcher.
It's very blue. You know, is it? Have you not got a Yukara yet?
Yeah, you can get different sort of palette versions for it. But ultimately, you've got your launcher, and then you've got your CO2 capsules. Now, your CO2 capsule will plug into the launcher. So this particular launcher, you've got two parts where you can plug it in. If you're using the launcher as just a standalone launcher, you would then put the CO2 in the top by where it says number 1. There's a little CO2 cart will physically fit in there, and that will give you about 15 rounds worth of tags. Now, what you can also do is at the stock, so where we've got the word unit, you can actually sort of get two parts to the tag launcher. You can have the standalone launcher, but then you can get the back end chassis, which is like a stock, which makes it like a proper riff. And then when you go down that route of having both parts, you can actually get another CO2 cartridge in the back end of it, which means you've got even more. So you can go running around, you know, and you've got enough CO2 in those two carts for 30 odd tags. Now, you know, that may not sound a lot, but when you add the price of a tag up, you know, that's an exceptionally large amount of money's worth of tags that you're running around with you. So, you know, you've got your launcher with your chassis or your stock, and you put your two CO2 carts in, and that should last you, you know, a decent while. And then the only thing you've then got is number 3, which is a small sleeve and it's probably a third of the size of those larger launching shells on the first slide. And all you simply do is just pop your tag round in that sleeve. You then put that sleeve into your tag round and fire, bang. So, you know, there is just straight out the bat, there's so much less that you need to carry with you. So all of these beautiful things in blue, orange, white, yellow, and what looks like green, but is actually grey. I'll talk through those in a moment, but that's the different variations of the tags. So you could see from that first slide just the sheer amount of different things you need to do just to fire off one tag compared to what the Tag ML36 launcher can do.
And you reuse those number 3s, can't you?
Absolutely. So the number 3s, they cost 10 quid for a dozen. You know, so it's 10 quid, it's a dozen of them, and they're reusable because, you know, you put it in, you fire it out, and it's your tag that goes out. That shell is still in the launcher, so you just open up your launcher, take it out, pop, bang. But again, because they're pretty cost effective, I run with a bandolier, and I'll have, you know, 10 or 15 tags on me, and they've already got the sleeves in. So it's just a case of fire one, right, brilliant, pop it open, another one, fire.
Lose it. If you lose one, it's not the end of the world, is it?
Exactly. You know, so it is absolute for rapid fire.
What's the sort of cost difference between this setup and the one on the previous?
So that's an interesting question. So the standalone launcher on its own is about 600 quid. So if you take your 600 quid, you're then paying £10 for the sleeves, you know, and pennies for your CO2 launcher. So it works out, you know, for just a standalone launcher versus the first slide, it's about the same. It's cost effective. It's only when you go and add the chassis at the back end, it puts another 300 quid on it. However, as I said, you don't need that chassis unless you want to run your tag launcher like a Riff, you know. And again, look, there's loads of video links out there, and I'll quite happily embed some on the Facebook page once this is done. But you know, and again, it just means that you can walk around with a Riff, and we'll get onto the different tags in a second, or you can walk around with just a launcher. And I've done a third slide, and we'll come on to that. Shows you the different ways that you can actually use it, and again, the unedited versions were put on Facebook, so it's a lot clearer. But that, for me, straight off the bat, would be the same price as what I've paid for that other setup, and you come with a load of sleeves, which means you can just keep firing off them tags, fire, and when you run out of CO2, it's not a problem. Undo a little cap, take your old CO2 cartridge in, pop it in. It's as simple as that. I suppose the only thing with the tag ML36 is it's completely proprietary, so you can't use Moss carts or faulty mics or master mics with it. But I suppose if I now come on to the ammo, that probably will help sort of, you know, build back the confidence of why this tag ML36 is a bit more of a complete unit than anything that's out on the market. So in the blue, the blue, what looks like blue, which is, you know, I should have put a number 4 there, but I didn't. So that's what's called the buckshot. So this is a 40 mic master mic equivalent. So you've got in there something like, it's like 50 BBs, you know, so you literally, and it scatters your BBs, you know, and you've got decent distance on it. You know, if you're a douchebag and you're shooting someone up close, then it's going to fucking hurt, because, you know, you're kicking out 50 BBs, you know, at a considerable rate. But, you know, if you want to rain it down on above, you know, from distance, then it's brilliant for that one.
And we don't endorse douchebaggery.
No,
do not endorse it.
No douchebaggery here.
Be a no-folk, don't be a douche.
And actually, yeah, exactly. And actually, you know, those buckshots, actually, they work out to like £3 a shot. So they're not bad, to be fair. In orange, really, really important. In orange, these are the Peckers, but these are dummies, purely dummies. You know, and that means they're reusable, and they're orange, which means if you fire them from the woods, 9 times out of 10 you can find them. And this is just about understanding your trajectory, where you're shooting, the distance, because, you know, with this particular launcher, the distance, it's insane of how far this thing can shoot, you know, and that's not by even angling it a lot as well. Now, there's a very, very famous, well-known YouTuber from Europe who, you know, I'm sure I don't need to talk anything more on that, you know, and he splits opinion, but he actually done a really, really good review video of the Tag ML36, and one of the things it demonstrates is just how frigging far and distance, you know, you can shoot, to be fair. So, you know, so look, we're saying blue is the buckshot, orange is the dummies, you know, and dummies really, really useful, you know, 30 quid for a set of 10, you know, and it's just good to sort of, you know, if you want to practice, you know, so you're going out to a site and you want to go and run and have a bit of a practice, you know how far you're shooting, how far you're not shooting. So really, really good and fairly cost effective.
It'd probably be quite interesting if you was in quite an open fielded area, for example, to just have a pocket full of the CO2, 10 of those rounds, and in the same angle, just fire all 10 rounds off, and then see roughly, you know, what the spread is, where they land.
Yeah, and again, I think, you know, like anything, I think once you know, you know what your trajectory looks like, you know, you can really get it very, very accurate. To be fair, very accurate.
Because the tag's rifled, isn't it, on the inside?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So obviously it launches it, and obviously the tag is spinning. You know, it's very, very authentic for what they've done, and the research they put into it. So that's the orange. The white ones, they are just impact grenades. So whatever it hits, bang. And, you know, and I suppose, you know, to sort of throw caution to the wind, you know, if you get hit by one of them, it's going to explode the minute it hits you. So again, you know, it's very much about understanding, you know, most events you go to that you're allowed to run tags, you generally have a separate safety brief. You know, there's going to be MEDs involved, you know, 9 times out of 10 there's something, you know, we don't want to see, you know, launchers, you know, being shot, you know, like that. You know, it needs to be at a 45-degree angle or more, because you know, like I say, you take one of those to the face, you know, my goodness, it's going to do some bloody damage, just like any other sort of pyro, you know, going off in someone's face would. In yellow, these are timed. So, you know, 3.5 seconds or 4.5 seconds from launch. So the minute you pop, you know, obviously it won't detonate on impact. Obviously it will land, and then, you know, from the 3.5 seconds or 4.5 seconds from when you shot it, that's when it will go boom. And then finally in grey, so these they're called the Fates, the DP25s. These are the Mark 1s. They've updated it to a Mark 2, which just is the same shape as all of the others now. And they are both timed and impact. So, you know, let's say I shoot it, you know, ideally, you know, when it hits, it's going to go bang. However, it's got a timer on it. So for whatever reason, if you shoot something and it hits and it doesn't detonate, then it's on a timed fuse anyway, so it will detonate. So again, you know, one of the big things we all know with whether it be, you know, mortar rounds, Mark 5s, you know, these things cost a bit of money, you know, and you literally are, you know, sending your cash up in flames, aren't you? So you want that much better sort of piece of, you know, well, just, you know, you want things to detonate and, you know, and get your bang for your buck. So, you know, they all have their own separate uses, but I think, you know, I've just sort of invested in a few of each, you know, and just obviously depending on, you know, what I'm aiming for, what we want to try and do with it will generally determine the type of round that I'm going to use. So I think that hopefully is just a bit more of that the Tag ML6 is not cheap, you know, but actually when you weigh it up against, you know, just the launcher versus that first set of, you know, a third-party launcher with the tag shells, because you always need them launching shells in the first slide if you're using a third-party launcher to launch a tag round. So, you know, again, you know, but I'll see if, you know, if you're just getting the tag launcher, the ML36, you know, it's circa 600 quid. But if you look at that first setup of mine on the first page, that was around 600 quid anyway. And actually what you're doing is simplifying what you're carrying, you're simplifying its needs, and it's just a ton more sort of effective. And I think the other thing, like I said, I mentioned, you know, the good thing about the ML36 is, and I think Rage has just said it, you know, if you can just get the ML36 without the stock, can you mount it to a riff? Absolutely. So Mike, that probably proceeds nicely into the next slide, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Just before we do, I had a couple of questions on these ones.
Yeah.
So have you found that any of these haven't been allowed on certain sites? Because I'm aware that some of the I think the impact ones I think they've been banned from one site. Not obviously not tag rounds as a whole, but just the impact ones.
Yeah.
I just wondered if you'd come across that at all.
Not yet, to be fair. Yeah, I mean, again, obviously the sites I played at are fairly limited. You know, certainly, you know, Longmorph is a great example. If you're rocking up with tags, you have to declare it, and you're asked to go and attend a separate brief. And certainly nothing, you know, to my knowledge, has been mentioned about impact grenades at that particular place. And certainly our home site, you know, generally it's, you know, no douchebaggery, you know, and, you know, you should, you know, sort of be so it's Octo saying they don't allow impact. That's good to know. So that's good to know.
The one I was thinking of.
Yeah, so that's good to know for end of March. So I'll bring the yellow ones and the buckshot in that case. But yeah, you know, it's, you know, certain sites will have certain rules, and I think that's just out of courtesy, you know. And I must admit, when we was looking at October before Christmas, I dropped Tim Brown, who's part of our sort of PMC piece, to say, look, you know, I would like to bring tags, you know, what say ye, you know. And I think it's just good practice, if you're bringing tags, that, you know, you should be openly declaring it, and you should be speaking to the event, you know, guys, because it is about health and safety. And as I said, you know, the impact ones are pretty frigging lethal, because they detonate upon impact. And, you know, like I say, you cop one to the side of the head, you know, you're going to know about it for a few days.
Or not. You'll know about it when you wake up.
Brilliant. So if we just probably flick on that, so, and again, this is a heavily edited slide, so I really apologise. But I suppose what I'm trying to get across, and you know, I will share the unedited slides with anyone that requests it via email or whatever. So, you know, three really great uses of the Tag ML36. You can use the launcher, and let's just say my remote control is the launcher. You can use the launcher on its own. You know, it works perfectly. It's handheld. It will sit in a very small, you know, very small rucksack. Simple as that. Pop. Nice and easy. Second thing is, as we said, there's two separate components, so you can actually use it like a proper riff. You know, you've got the front launcher part, and then you've got a stock part, so you can walk around with it. You can then have double the capacity of CO2, and you know, if you want to use it like a riff, you can use it like a riff. I would say there's probably more disadvantage, you know, to using it as a riff, because you know you're limited to what you can do with it. It doesn't fire, you know, sort of single BBs or single shot. It'll be buckshots only, but it looks the bollocks. So you know, why
A couple of hundred. You see, a couple of £100 for that.
Yeah, 300 quid. What's 300 quid between friends? You know.
No, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I've not even had a go of yours yet, and just literally the photos that you shared in our WhatsApp group had me on blooming.
Paul's already got one in his basket.
Yeah.
I had. I just didn't click on it. I thought, no, just wait a minute.
Yeah,
You're lethal. You're absolutely dangerous, mate.
And then the third bit, like Rage says, the great thing is with a Tag ML36, it can be used as an underbarrel. You know, any sort of you know, riff with a rail system, it's compatible with that. You know, and like I say, my blue blocks don't do it any justice. You know, it's a really nice piece of kit, and it does the job. It allows you to do rapid projectile launches, whereas you know, you sort of see people with their own tag setups or moss carts. You know, I've used 40 mics, you know, and they're just a bloody faff, you know, and you just want to, you know, get off your rounds pretty quick. So you know, like I say, look, you know, I love my tag products, and you know, there is more to tag innovation than just, you know, tag rounds. They do, you know, pea grenades, you know, flash bangs and that as well. Some really good stuff, you know, and I think again, as long, you know, as the person using it is sane and sensible and has other people's health and safety as a consideration, then it's absolutely fine. But you know, if you get a dickwad turning up that's got no regard for anyone's health and safety, then you know, people shouldn't be using it, to be fair. But really good, very accurate. But as I said, for me, everything with me is an evolution. Started off on green gas, really poor. Went to the CO2, it works, but just too much faff, too much clunk. So you know, moved on to the ML6. Yes, there's an outlay, but it's fantastic. So you know, that's really good. And
I suppose it's the difference between a musket and a Winchester, isn't it?
Yeah,
sort of loading it up.
and that's it, isn't it? You know, and it is, you know, like I say, the last thing you want is to rock up with, you know, in my opinion, I you know, rocked up with a green gas tag launcher. You know, I must have fired off 8 or 9 tags and maybe 2 detonated, and you're thinking, Jesus Christ, I've just done 8 times 7 quid's worth, you know, of tags, and I've had no success from it, you know. So again, it's just a case of, you know, evolution. Rage, would it fit on a Scar, Mike Scar? Have that weird launcher that goes over the magwell? And you know what, I've not actually stuck it on my Scar yet, but I'm 99.9% sure it'll be fine. It worked on my MK46, so I imagine it will. So let me pop that together, and I'll stick a photo on Facebook, because I said, you know, these blue horrible blocks that, because of censorship, you know, don't do anyone any justice. So I will do the uncensored versions on Facebook tonight, and I'll stick it on my Scar and just send a couple of photos over as well. But yeah, that's tags. I think the only other thing just to highlight for what, and I'm not, you know, I'm not here to push tag. As I said, I really like their products and I use them. But what tag are doing, they are sort of at the arse end of producing a mortar round called Dominus. And again, it's not going to be cheap. But if you look up Tag Innovations Dominus, it's their version of a mortar round, and it is near on as professional as one can get, and it's a 2-man operation. It
takes to clarify, I've just googled Dominus, and the first thing I got was Domino's Pizza. So yeah, make sure you spell it right.
So it's something that they've not heavily publicised, but they've teased it. So yeah, just look up Tag Innovations Dominus. That's their version of a mortar that's coming, and my Christ, it looks, as you would expect, next level. So yeah, that for me will be, you know, sort of if we get a bonus this year, or if we get a you know, a tax rebate or something, that's where it will probably go, as opposed to paying for the kids' education or something.
They're fine. It's homeschooling anyway, mate. So
yeah, exactly. So and Rage, yes, I will put it on Instagram, mate. I'll even drop you
it does everything's just come up with Domino's.
Yeah, that's the same. Now on pizza.
Fuck you, Google. I've just spent £1,000 on pizzas.
And Octo's just saying that, you know, we experimented with a tag grenade launcher and the hand grenades early on, but had a lot of duds. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Depending what you was using, whether you was using green gas or CO2. But I learned my lesson very quickly with green gas and tag rounds. Those particular launching shells just weren't great. So as I said, you know, I've gone through that evolution once again to get to where I am. But you know, I know generally with certain conviction that, you know, every time I pop off a tag, it's, you know, it's pretty much guaranteed detonation, which is what you need. I think the only other thing which has been mentioned is that tag also do smoke rounds. So exactly like you've just seen all of the different varieties, they do smoke rounds as well. I've never used them. I might. They're a little bit more cost effective. You know, I generally don't carry smokes on me, and maybe I should. And you know, for you know, it's quite a reasonable price. I might try some for a next event as well. Given that Octo is saying that they allow smokes, yeah, then why not? I'll bring some as well. Cool. And that's me.
It'd be interesting to see about the smokes. As I say, you know, if you pull a Enola Gay and lob that one out, you get quite a good bit of coverage, didn't you?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what comes out when you fire one out the mortar on what they provide as a smoke. And when I've tried to have a little. Go on.
Sorry, the smoke rounds are pretty much the same size, so I'd be interested to know, because obviously there's a lot of oomph to get that in the air. So obviously, if you compare that to a standard EG smoke grenade, you know, that's all smoke. That's obviously got a 2-stage pyrotechnic in it. So it might be that that's maybe like half. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but
I've tried to have a little Google on or a bit of a YouTube on it, and there's the odd picture or the odd clip of the tags being fired, but it's not. There's not loads on there for the smokes for you to see and think. I think it does. Obviously, you can see a bit of smoke in the distance, but you know what you really want to know is if I'm firing something in advance of me pushing up on, you know, on an objective, am I going to sort of fire it? Well, I almost said start running, then start making my way forward in a controlled manner. You know, is it just going to have like this little fizzle fart of smoke and then I'm totally exposed, or are we going to, you know,
just get a normal smoke grenade, one of those 3-man slingshots?
Yeah, EG-18X.
Mike, can I just start to notice you've got a flashbang smoke there? So you know, obviously, it's very much been, you know, the market.
So this is. Flashbang Smoke is the brand. It's not actually a smoke. This is just the mortar. This is made by TLSF.
So I was going to ask that because Flashbang Smoke are fairly new to the market, from what I saw. You know, and I think they're Kent based, aren't they? They're quite local to us. And I was going to ask that: is it proprietary or is it, you know, a rebrand?
Well, no, it says So it says on it, it's manufactured in the UK by TLSFX. They got to change their name. That's really hard to say. And it's interesting because I was under the impression that FBS was TL whatever, but it looks like that I'll have to look into this, but I think FBS might be a separate like reseller maybe.
Yeah, they are. Like I say, they're fairly new, aren't they? So, but interesting to see that they're utilising what, you know, TLSFX do. But no, and that's why I just asked, because I saw something about flashbang smoke a little while ago, but that's good to know. It'd be interesting to know whether they do their own products as opposed to, you know, rebranding is probably the wrong word, but, you know, sort of using someone else's, you know, designs for, you know, better intensive purposes. So
yeah, I mean, if they want to donate some stuff, we could obviously give that a test.
It's funny because the name of the company is almost aligned to Schmargate, where we seem to have issues. Is it a Schmar? Is it a Schmeg? Is it a Schmeg? Is it a Schmeg? Is it TLSFX? Is it oh bollocks? Is that mortar round company or that other company that makes the big rags?
Quickly. So advancing away, is that French for running away? Goodbye, all of our French viewers. Sorry. Harry Badger, I've heard a rumor of an orange tag punching a hole through a shipping container. True or BS? Do they have that much force, do you reckon? That's quite a lot. I mean, the shipping containers are quite a like chunky bit of steel, aren't they?
I mean, the thing with the tag rounds, they are ultra light, really, really light, really light. You know, and if we're saying the orange ones are the timed ones and the Reapers, no chance. They just don't weigh enough. You know, they've got enough weight on them to give them the range, but you know, they are light, very, very light. So yeah, I call bullshit on that one.
Fair enough. Mike Brewer says we'll look forward to seeing you boys at the end of March then. Hopefully, fingers crossed, assuming that, you know, the C word doesn't get in the way.
If not, see you in May.
Yeah. 2023. I might see if we can get some stickers made up. So if anybody bumps into any one of the four of us, you might get an OFO sticker at some point, maybe. Who knows?
It's interesting, obviously. We you know, we're joking, but you know, we all want to, you know, really keen to get to Octo's event in Fulham, you know, and you know, by Christ, I hope it goes ahead in March. You know, itching for an event and that, but you know, just the irony is, you know, we all paid for that event last year, and I then think, hold on a minute, I've actually paid for a MilSim back in April, which I've still got a deposit out there somewhere. So
bizarre,
yeah, I think I almost need to sort of like understand where all my deposits for events are gone and haven't got them back, or are they still out there? Because you know, it's going to be a busy year. Hopefully, when we start to see a bit of normality in the world. Honestly,
if that's one of the first events out, it's going to be. You know, like kids have just been shoveling Haribos down their neck, and we're just running around with glow sticks.
Gaz asked, do you guys prefer handheld or rift-mounted launchers? So one thing I haven't spoken about is that, I mean, I have run a GLO 6, the B&T sort of moss cart launcher. I used to run that sort of CQB with the sort of shotgun shells in it. I've never used an underslung one. Do you find that like weighs the gun down a bit more? I mean, presumably it adds quite a bit of weight to it.
I've never run one. I'd say I was not even fired a tag. So, but for me, I wouldn't, even without using one on the underside. I think I quite like the idea with the way that Mr. Marden does it. You know, you either have it in your rucksack, you know, and if we're out there and you know, the guy I'm with grabbed it. If we, you know, on that agreement, or yeah, you can have a go with it or whatever. The idea, I try and keep stuff streamlined. I suppose
it's personal preference, isn't it? You know, and again, interestingly, you know, I changed all of my rifts last year, and you know, I got an MK46, and that thing's a frigging beast. I then, you know, I stuck the thermal on it, you know, all of the night vision attachments, and I stuck, for a little bit of trolling almost, I stuck the ML36 on the bottom of it, and it weighed so much, you know, and I'm not going to be able to walk around with that. However, believe when you think about it, you know, something like an MK46, you know, if you are, you know, you're on stag rotation, or you got, you know, you're on a fob and you've got that MK46, man, you know what, sling that tag launcher underneath it, you know, because you're not got to run around with it. It'd be fantastic, you know. Distance of the riff anyway, but you know, adding those extra projectiles on it, it's an absolute beast. So I think it is personal preference. I think Paul's alluded to it. I personally wouldn't, because I wouldn't want to be carrying around so much bulk with me. But as I said, personal preference.
Mike Dale, that's that guy's
name. That's it, Mike Dale. That's it, Mike Dale.
So he has his underslung, and his tag launcher. But yeah, he that's how he, you know. But I don't know. You know, we often talk about our kit, Mr. Marden, and you know, we don't like too much sort of that we carry around, do we? You know, our plate carriers are quite sort of streamlined. You know, so I think the idea of having something strapped on the bottom of that for me as well is I can get that picture in my head though with your Mark 46 if you're in a fixed position, you know, and you've got it up there on the mount and you're kind of using it to stop anyone coming at you or whatever it may be. Get it, but I don't think I could all out arse around. No. I'd rather carry extra blue ribbons.
Last thing I did just want to talk about, there's 2 points of this really. This is the I think is it Enola Gay? Yeah, so this is the Enola Gay Mark 5 Thunderflash. These are really probably the cheapest Mark 5s you can buy. I think if you can probably pick these up for sort of like £2, £1.80 a pop if you sort of bulk order. But if anyone watching from Enola Gay, please somehow work out a better way to fix these freaking little tabs on there. Because the number of times that I've pulled out a grenade and gone to light it and the tab's fallen off. I
They
know
do,
Patrol Base do a little tab thing that you can actually attach like on the molly, which is quite good. It's basically just striker paper stuck to a bit of some sort of like molly clip or something like that. But
I've probably enough
that'd be awesome.
buy me a plate carrier.
Yeah.
Burn marking a 300 quid fucking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were at Longmore and we were storming one of I think it's the Alamo fob, and like the sand one, and we were outside the gate, and whoever was in there with a box of Mark Fives, they were just like lobbing them over. I mean, at one point, Mike from Legion came over and said, "Look, guys, you're just mush at this point. There's no point in even like calling medic." But Lance had one actually land in his dump pouch and go off, which was pretty scary. I mean, it was funny for the rest of us. It was scary for him, but
I'm not sure that we seem to be having these little moments in time, you and I think, where we are coming
possibly
across
was you lobbing them.
these exchanges. So again, there's another YouTube video of when I was with the Wolf team, and I had a rucksack full of pyro, and we were trying to take back the Alamo, and I think it was either three tags to breach the gate, or 5 flashbangs to breach the gate, and then the gate had to stay open. Yeah, and the gate has to stay open then for 20 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. And
I'm literally standing there with my back turned, Sam Jarrett dipping in the rucksack, and he's just pulling out bangs and smokes, and he was fuck knows what he threw over that fence, and it was just shitloads of it, and you couldn't see when you went in. There was smoke everywhere. There was bangs going off all over. So it probably was that. So it wasn't me that directly threw it into Lance's posing pouch, but
it wasn't the comms pouch either that seems to be getting a lot of love on Instagram. The only other thing I wanted to say is, obviously, if you guys can, I highly recommend, obviously not you two guys, the people in the chat, highly recommend trying to bulk order pyro as much as possible. If you can find even just one other person to sort of split that with, it massively reduces delivery costs. And we're all about trying to save you as much money as possible. So there's a lot of good brands out there. I found a paintball website actually for a lot of the pyro for the Punishers team. So I highly recommend having a look around if you can.
I think
go on, mate.
Equally, there is retailers out there that does team buys as well, don't they? Team bulk buys and reduce costs. And look, I can't say any retailers because I'm speculating at best, but certainly when I've bought items in the past, if you are buying for your team and buying in bulk, you do get some sort of reduced discount or additional volume. So I think what did we say? It was like 50, isn't it something like 50 mortar rounds are like 250 quid or something, or they're like £7 each, isn't it?
Something like we all chipped in, didn't we? For the
we all chipped in for one of the events we went to, wasn't it? We just took that number and divided it by the people that were going, and it just meant that everyone chipped in like 12 quid, and equally we said if you're chipping in, then you're free game. We want you to have a bit of fun and play with the mortar that weekend as well.
Wayne just said Black Cat do smoke nades and are cheap and really thick smoke. So
I think I still remember the EG18X.
The Coke can types.
Mate, they are beautiful, and the amount of smoke that they chuck off is honestly, it should come with its own license. Yeah. They're not cheap, them ones, but if you want to create some cover, fucking hell, they do chuff some out.
So, right, well, next week we are talking sleep systems. So join us then. We're going to be talking all things sleeping bags, pillows, blankets, everything like that. We'll be covering sort of shelters and bits and pieces in a future episode. If anyone wants to get in touch with us, please feel free to do so. I've been playing around with the brand and I can come up with this lovely banner that now runs along the screen with all of our contact information on. So obviously there's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and email.
And Lance's mobile number.
We've also all got our Instagram handles under our names. So if you want to drop us a message on Instagram, you can get hold of us directly. So that's those. I'll leave that running for a bit. The last thing I wanted to say is that we actually had a friends over at CloudCam do some creative work for us, and they created a new little intro video, which only one person has currently seen. So I'm going to end the show with replaying the intro video, which I know will probably be a bit weird for some people. But I just wanted to say thanks to them because I thought it was pretty cool. Got goosebumps when I watched it. So yeah.
Does it, as an outro, does it go backwards?
No, it doesn't. It's just gonna count down and then it will cut out. But
Are we doing
so,
next week's then after 30 seconds?
we're just gonna go straight into it. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you want to say goodbye.
Thank
Adios.
you. Always a pleasure, guys. Thanks for joining.
Cool. Right. See you later, Nofos.